Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from Yahoo and AFP. Venezuela forms immigration police to strengthen border controls. When a Marxist nation, doesn't matter if they're authoritarian, socialist, communist, whatever the case may be, when they do something like this, it's because they do not want the story of what's going on inside the border to escape the border with the people. Because those people get out, they tell their story. It's also the fact of a matter of control, obviously, of course. Looking at the fact that he's losing the people that he rules over, he's going to do what he can to try to stop that. I mean, this is what authoritarian Marxist nations have done historically. If you look, a good example would be the Berlin Wall, and then the Iron Curtain as an extension of it. You know, the Berlin Wall, you had people moving between East Berlin and West Berlin, and then, like, pretty much overnight, a fence and then a wall, and then it just keeps getting more and more fortified, because as you had this authoritarian regime enacting its will and its power on the East German people, they started moving across the line, and it's like, well, shit, we're losing people. What are we going to do? I know. Build a fence. Then build a wall while you're at it. Just use the fence to stop them now. We'll build the wall as we go. And if you look, they literally built walls to the sides of buildings, and then they, at first, because they had people going out the windows of those buildings, they then bricked the windows up on those sides of those buildings, like that were on the other side of the wall, and then they forced people to stop living there, because they were letting people live there. And then, you know, with the window situation, they bricked it up, and then they finally said, no, you got to get out. And they did everything to keep people in. This is just a modern example of this. It really is. Caracas, AFP. The government of President Nicolas Maduro said Friday it has created a new police force to strengthen border controls at a time that thousands of people are fleeing Venezuela's spiraling economic and political crisis, which is an understatement. Even though they wanted the socialism, they're fleeing socialism. They might not get it in their head, but what they were basically fleeing is what they wanted. And the thing is, this is going to get more and more authoritarian. It really is. You know, right now, oh, they're just a police force. And then it's going to get like North Korea, where you have... That is, unless there's a constant eye on this and attention brought to it, or the nations that border Venezuela keep an eye on things. But you will have, if that's not done, it like North Korea, where if someone tries to cross the border, they get shot. It really will end up like that, unless constant attention is paid to the Venezuelan situation. Because if it's like, oh, nothing to see here, he'll keep escalating. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced on state TV that a new migration police, which will take control of the country's 72 entry and exit points of ports, airports, and border crossings, was starting immediately. Yeah, because they see all the people leaving, and they're going, well, shit, our little socialist paradise here is not looking so good when we have all these people trying to get the fuck out of it. Now, does it? It will reinforce the existing controls as a specialized force, she said, making special reference to neighboring Colombia. Now, I love this. Venezuela is trying to bring Colombia into this shit, and things in Colombia are a hell of a lot better. Even with cartels and everything else, are a hell of a lot better than Venezuela these days. Rodriguez said that Venezuela is a victim of a Colombian campaign of falsehoods to justify something that will never happen, an international intervention. Bullshit. You guys have fucked things so bad in Venezuela. Both you and your beloved President Maduro, that it's going to get to a point where, to stabilize the region, there is going to be an international intervention. Now, whether or not the U.S. is a part of it, I'm not going to say. I mean, on a humanitarian level, I kind of see this like a Grenada thing. So I could kind of see, but I honestly think it would have to be done by the regional players, and I would support that. If Colombia and the other countries around there said, you know what, Venezuela, you're fucking our shit up because all your people are coming across the border to us. Now you're going to, instead of fixing your own house, you're going to stop them from leaving it. Unless you start straightening shit out, we are going to intervene and then actually do it. I think that's the type of situation that's going to happen. Because if you have other nations outside that regional sphere, we'll say, intervene, it's not going to go over well. Because if the U.S. gets involved, then, oh, it's the imperial U.S., look at them, they can't let socialist utopia, there'll be all these bullshit excuses, you know, socialist utopia, they destroyed it, this, that, and the other thing. If European nations, oh, look at the West, you know, oh, they'll find one excuse or another. But if Colombia and the other neighboring countries, or even, you know, regional ones that might not necessarily share a border, all get together and say, you know what, fuck this, we got to take care of Maduro, and we got to take care of Rodriguez, because this is getting to be friggin' ridiculous, and they start helping the people against them, hey, I got no problems with that, in all honesty. And I think, like I said, I think that's pretty much the only way something like that's going to fly. Because if it's yeah, how do I put this? If it's, say, the Venezuelan people, I know it's not all whatever, but if a large number of Venezuelan people are asking these countries for help, then yeah, that helps for them to do that with the situation. The Venezuelan government claims that 8 million Colombians displaced by decades of internal warfare are living in their country. Colombia officials say the true figure is around 900,000. Well, I'm not buying the 8 million. That right there is laying the groundwork for blaming the Colombian transplants, that with all the stuff that happened with the cartels in the 80s and into the 90s and stuff like that, that fled it. What they're going to say is, oh, well, they're the reason why our utopia socialist nation is failing, because we have to support them besides ourselves. But these are people that have become, you know, contributing. I don't know if they're necessarily contributing in taxes. I'm sure they probably, you know, who knows? They could be. I mean, they've probably married and shit like that because they've been there for years, had kids, everything else. Even if it's 900,000, I mean, that's not a small amount, but it's still not nearly what they're saying. It's less than an eighth of it. I'm not even going to trust the UN's numbers here. According to the United Nations, 1.9... sorry, I misread that earlier. I thought they were still talking about the Colombian thing because like I read it twice, I glanced over it a second time, and for whatever reason, when I did it the second time, Colombian got transposed with Venezuelan there. But regardless, you got 900,000 of them, and here's the thing: how many of those Colombians didn't go back to Colombia with the shit that's going on? How many of those Colombians didn't go someplace else besides Colombia? You don't necessarily know that. According to the United Nations figures, 1.9 million Venezuelans have fled the country since 2015. Now, I wonder if the UN has counted some of those Colombians that were displaced after the internal warfare and cartel fight wars and stuff like that in Colombia. The collapse of Venezuela's oil-based economy under the increasingly authoritarian Maduro has led to dire shortages of food and medicine. Yes, that's also due to mismanagement. When you let the government control everything from the top down, you end up with this type of stuff. You really do. This is what I don't understand about these millennials and even the boomers. And a few of the, Gen Xers and that. But I don't understand how they can think any form of Marxism, even this supposed anarchy bullshit, because anarchy and Marxism are contrary. They really are. You cannot have one and the other. You either have anarchy, where it's all fend for yourself, or you have this utopist ideal of where the people who have more give to those who need more. You can't have it both ways. But the idea that you won't end up with any these shortages is complete bullshit. I've mentioned before, I actually went on a school trip to the former Soviet Union. And I witnessed firsthand. I mean, I'm surprised they actually allowed us to see a market that the Soviet citizen, that a Russian would use. Because, they would take us to these tourist markets where you'd have all the stuff that all the knick-knack crap and Russian-made products, like the bearskin hats and everything else. But we actually went to a Russian market. We had gone in, I think it was to grab drinks or something, but it wasn't like part of the tour. And the shelves were all bare, like your refrigerated units. The shelves on those all bare. The shelves all bare. We're grabbing like, oh god, this orange soda that they had, because they could, that was one of the things that they had. And it was actually especially for a communist drink, I gotta say it was pretty damn good orange soda. But yeah, we go in to get, and we had been told about this, and we're actually witnessing it firsthand. And when you're a suburban kid, that you might not, you're middle class, you might not be upper middle class, you're probably towards the end of lower middle class, like a few of us were, because our parents scrimped and saved for us to go on these trips, for more than a few of us. But you still live a sheltered life, even in that lower middle class. If you're in the middle class, you grew up in it. Especially like the Gen X generation, you kind of lived a sheltered life on that type of stuff. You saw it in like the history classes with the pictures and the books and stuff like that. But you didn't have it click in your head with that. I mean, at least for me, I had it click at that point when I'm seeing it for myself and I'm going, God damn, how can anyone live like this? Because I had the idea of the waiting in line for toilet paper and stuff like that. Even from a young age. Because, you had that Robin Williams movie. What the hell was it? Where he was the musician with the circus. Oh, shit. Anyway. Even then they had jokes with that. Yakov Smirnoff. Jokes about the waiting in line for food and toilet paper and everything else. This was like stuff that you knew about. But until you see it firsthand, at that age, I was, a young teenager. You don't have a click, and I think because we have this, at least on the note of maturity, this mentally, a retardation of people mentally. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it. Where their maturity levels don't match where they should be. They don't get these things. Oh, socialism will be good. I wish you had gone and saw the Soviet Union. Oh, well, and they make these excuses because they've never seen it for themselves, that they can't figure it out. So they go, oh, well, they just did it wrong. No, that's not how it works. So for these shortages not to be there, Maduro needs to go because it's his fucking shit up. Not planning ahead, micromanaging it, having the government micromanage everything. I mean, when you, all right, and I wish I had covered I wanted to do a story on this when I saw the article, but it had been too late before we move on here. There was this region of Venezuela that had a wild burro population that was actually becoming a nuisance because of Maduro and the policies of the government. That burro population is a nuisance no more. They ate them all to death. I kid you not on this. I don't mean to laugh because this is sad. It really is. But the idea that you have a burro population that is wreaking havoc in a region, now you don't have to worry about it. They ate them all because of this shit. Ate all the zoo animals, ate the cats, the dogs. You know, you're never going to see the apocalypse according to Ghostbusters there because cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria is never going to happen. They ate them all. Maduro, however, denies any migration crisis and has asked the UN to be more sincere in its figures. Oh, translation. He wants them to be more favorable to him because they're making him look bad telling the fucking truth. Or closer to it. Because I'm sure with their globalist tendencies and wanting to push this socialist ideal and them as the government of the world, yeah, they're probably going to at least slant it a little in his favor. If, how do I, as much as they can without being too freaking obvious. He also says there is no humanitarian crisis in Venezuela due to a chronic lack of food and medicine. And there's no burro crisis either, you stupid fuck. Oh, I'm sorry for laughing. But I look at this shit and you just, at some point, you just have to, with how out there, how messed up, how demented, how twisted things with like Venezuela are, you just have to laugh. The new police force will help monitor migration so that the truth will come out and not the imperial lies from Washington. Wow, that's what threw me for a loop. Not the imperial lies that from Washington, that are from Washington. Holy shit. Whatever happened to, I mean, when I write a script, I proofread the fucking thing. One of the reasons, I mean, it takes me forever to write my scripts when I do my scripted shit. Because, one, I'm actually having to cut shit out because the way my brain works is I'll start typing and typing and typing. I need to, like, outline shit and come up with a thing and then go from there because I end up having to go back and I have another document because I might go back to that in another part. So if I've gone off on a tangent, I then cut it out and then move it over to the other document and I go back and forth. And then because I've done so much of that stuff, I read through it to a point, like I get to a certain point, I read through it, make sure, okay, thing flows right, I haven't cut something out I shouldn't, double checking, stuff like that. And I proofread up to that point. And then I go even further, and then when I get to that next point where I do that, I go back to the beginning and I still proofread it. So my documents gets proofread multiple friggin' times because of that other shit. But how the hell can you not proofread this once? I mean, I'm saying I proofread my shit multiple times. You can't even do it once. Because this should be, the new police force will help monitor migration so that the truth will come out and not the imperial lies that are from Washington. Wait a minute. Okay, that Washington wants... Wow. I can't even fucking read that right. Whoever the fuck said this, oh, it's Rodriguez. So that the truth will come out and not the imperial lies that from Washington want to be sold to the world. Wouldn't it be not the imperial lies Washington wants to sell to the world? That would make more sense. Okay, we'll go with that. Now, here's the thing. Sorry to break it to her, but I don't trust my own damn government. But in this situation, I tend to believe what they're saying about Venezuela. I tend to believe what the people are saying from Venezuela. I tend to believe what I see with my own two eyes when you look at the people taking to the streets. I tend to believe the same when you see all these things about the people crossing the border out to get out of Venezuela. I believe what my eyes are showing me when I see this, that they've created this police force to stop the flow of people across the border. Venezuela is a shithole because of socialism. If they hadn't have nationalized the oil industry, gave everyone microwaves when they didn't even have pots to piss in, or necessarily the electricity to run the microwave, if they didn't do things like that and spend money stupid, they wouldn't have this problem right now. If they didn't bank everything on oil, because they were like, oh, we're at peak output, it's only going to be a gravy train from here. They didn't expect new technology and new ways to extract more from existing wells and all these other things, like on the note of new technology, those things, and then fracking and everything else to show that we could get the tar sands is another good example, but to show that there's going to be more oil production. They thought we were at peak production. And now, the U.S. right now is like the largest exporter, larger than OPEC. So they got fucked. They thought the gravy train was never going to end. And they thought, because they were figuring oil's going to keep going up. We've got all this oil. The price is going to keep going up and up and up and up. And as it does, we're going to be getting more and more money in. It was like, I want to say like a pyramid scheme, but there wasn't a pyramid scheme. On the idea of oil and the price increasing, it's a reverse, it's a pyramid. And that's where I'm thinking pyramid scheme, because they were looking at the fact of they're going to have, like, but I'm thinking like the idea of like the pyramid, the $10,000 pyramid, as you go from the bottom to the top, but as you go up, you're looking at, so we'll say it's one in reverse just to make it sound better, but a pyramid in reverse, because they were expecting more money to come in as it happened, because demand keeps increasing, prices keep going up because we're supposedly at peak production globally. That wasn't the case. They didn't have any diversification on their money coming into the nation on national industries or anything. So anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.